Hi everybody, I'm Bianca Rodriguez and this is You Are Complete, a space where we talk about the intersection between spirituality, creativity, and purpose. And I have asked my friend, Joey Feldman, who is an artist, an illustrator, and a
cartoonist,
because he's a very inspiring guy, to chat with us today about his world. So welcome, Joey.
Thanks.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
This is your studio, right?
This is my studio, yes.
This is where this man makes the magic.
This is a secret location in Los Angeles, California.
It's totally secret. We are in a very secret location right now.
We blindfolded Bianca on the way here and out.
Yeah, it was so hard to drive, especially because it was raining.
Yes.
Yeah. LA people struggle with that.
Yes, they do.
But I have love for LA, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the rain, though. I love it. I wish it would still be raining right now.
I know.
We only got 3 minutes of rain.
I know. It was heavy, though.
Yeah. But we need the rain, but I like that atmosphere. I like dark.
That is such a good lead into your work, because your work is pretty dark.
It can be at times.
It's dark, but it has this like really fun, I don't know, twist. There's like a lot of movement, I feel like, in your work.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement, a lot of, stuff going on, but it's also a little bit of humor, mixed in with the, the I don't know, the maniacal side, we could say. I guess, I don't know.
I think that's the dark thing that I'm pointing at.
Yeah.
That I'm picking up on.
I like ugly. I don't go for, I like defects. I like when people aren't perfect.
That's so beautiful.
I
feel like we're in a society where, especially in LA, where everybody's trying to look perfect and be perfect and...
Yeah, and like sort of like how I handle my art, like, they say the reason that pencils have erasers is so if you make a mistake. Mm-hmm. I don't use any type of pencil. So if there's, any type of extra mark or something that appears, on the paper or whatever, it stays. Sometimes I'll go over it to cover it up with some paint, but I never, because it's not planned. You just kind of like, whatever happens, it happens.
I love that. That's such a metaphor for life, because it's like, it's the stuff that maybe doesn't go the way that we think it's going to go, or maybe to us it looks like a blemish on our like story that we want to tell. It's like, no, that's part of the story, and sometimes I bet it becomes like the best part of the story.
It's a little bit of the journey when you're making the piece, with these marks, but it's also you never know what's going to happen, and that's what I like about it. I don't like, if I've done other work where I've had a pre-plan and you take a pencil and you do this, and it's just that's not for me. That's not how I live my life. Like, it's got to happen when I want it, and I'd rather do 5 than just stay on the same one over and over again. I think it takes a lot of the energy out, so that's
so interesting, because when I run a lot of therapy groups, and it's interesting because some of the other people that I work with, like my colleagues, they will be like, I don't know what I'm going to do for my group, and I really need to have a plan. And my favorite thing is to go in with maybe like a loose kind of idea, like, we should talk about, I don't know, like I want to do something with them. Like, usually it's something that I'm experiencing or working on myself. And then I'm kind of like, I want to leave it open for the process of the flow, because for me, that's where, I don't know, for me, like the divine speaks through that. And if I'm so controlled and trying to contain it or give it some sort of an agenda, it's like it's too rigid. I just can't.
Yeah, I get, because like when something's controlled, for me, I sort of know what the answer is going to be.
That's not exciting.
No, it's not for me, and I like sudden death. And I like.
What do you mean by that?
You put a line down on the paper. It's sort of a commitment. There's other areas in my life with commitments that I'm not that great with, but with a line, I can do that. And then if there's, if worse comes to worse, you don't like it, you kind of go around it and you kind of chisel out, with the tool. But there's something to be said about that, like spontaneity, that I think it's, for me, and maybe for you too, it's more of a learning experience. Like, I learn more when I don't know what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
But I get it about the controlled thing, because sometimes, in other aspects of my life, I need to know how it's going to work out.
No, I feel like though, thinking that we know the outcome is just an illusion because we really don't ever know what the outcome's going to be.
No.
Yeah, no.
Never.
I feel like once like I kind of was able to kind of, and I struggled a ton, definitely in certain areas, but just to like let it go and be like, it's going to be what it's going to be, and I, can't control it. I'm just going to show up. But I also feel like it allows for the possibility of the infinite.
Sure.
Like, what I could think in my small brain is not anywhere near what like the creator or God or source or whatever this greater thing is. It's like I think of all the species in the world, and it's like, could I have thought of all those? No, I definitely couldn't. So it's like, right? I need like I need to believe in something infinite and allow the space for that to come through and.
Sure.
Big canvas.
But it's also just like this thing that we came up with called time. Like, you wake up in the morning and you're allotted, 12 to 15 hours or whatever to kind of get the most out, and what you do with that, but you never know what's going to happen in that day. There's ups and downs, but, you always get on the other side. And like, I like that. Like, I like in the morning, when I get up and I have my coffee, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I'm going to get an email that could change my whole day.
Yes.
Good or bad. The bad, obviously, you don't always like, bad news. But, you don't know where you're going to wind up. There's so many times that I've started the day and then I'm like on the other side of California doing something I had no idea that I'd be doing. And, I like that.
I love that.
I
love that. And I imagine you have to have a life that creates the space to do that.
I think you have to be open and you have to, and that's where the control thing comes in. But it's also, there's control and then there's also having a schedule, and I don't really have, like, I try to make a schedule and, you get friends that call you because they don't really think you're working and, hey, let's go hang out, let's go do this. And I think you have to have a certain level of self-discipline, but I think you have to allow for those moments where you enjoy life or you just kind of take it as it comes, So.
How'd you become an artist? How'd you get here?
Well, let's see. I was like an only child, so I kept to myself a lot. I loved comic books, and I always but I didn't like people. I still don't like people. Like, I'm not good with people. Like, I always related, to like the misunderstood monsters, like Frankenstein or the Hulk. They try to do good stuff, but it always, because they're monsters, they always are made out. So it's like, oh, leave me alone, but give me love.
They're made out to be like the bad guys.
Yeah. So I always related to those guys. And, there was I grew up in a neighborhood where I used to get beat up a lot. And so I kept to myself. But my father bought me, some Marvel comics. And I would start tracing them. Because, we weren't the most well-to-do family. And, I didn't go to classes or anything like that. So I would just trace these comic books. And then by tracing them, I would start drawing them on my own. And then, it just keeps going.
Yourself how to do it.
And then I've had various jobs over the years, but I've always gone back to the art, no matter what. And then, I got, it was comic books, worked a little in that, and then I became what they call an illustrator. I didn't know, I just knew I would draw all the time. And then, you just kind of get bits and pieces. And, there was no art school. I went to art school for a week and a half. And
what happened there?
I did a lot of acid and drugs. And everything that they were teaching me, I sort of knew. And I was like, first of all, I couldn't function properly. But also, it was a lot of money. Yeah. And my father had died like a year before. And a couple people in my family thought it was a good idea that I go to art school maybe, but I wasn't it. I can't. It's so tough sometimes. I could not be doing anything and I'm waiting for an assignment to come, like a paying art job, and then somebody will come along and they'll give it to me, and then I'll be like, oh man, I can't fit this in my schedule when I need it. So that was the attitude I had in art school. These assignments, I was like, oh, I like being here. This is cool, hanging with people, but this is not my thing.
I don't want you to tell me what to do on a certain
Yeah.
schedule.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
like
seeing
that.
that to be a theme in this discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't like that. And then I worked at Tower Records, and I used to do their displays.
Really?
And I learned a lot from there.
Where was that, in New York or in LA?
That was in Philadelphia.
Oh, in
They
Philadelphia.
started opening up stores Philly, and then they would send me to like Washington D.C. and you know, you would just make. I got so much experience. I learned materials and stuff like that, and then I had some issues in my life that were just we'll say I hit bottom, and then like I got a job at an art supply store. I had a friend of mine who said go back to what you know, and like I knew how to draw and do art, and so I had done everything. Like I sold mattresses, like I did all kinds of jobs, and so I went and I worked at this art supply store, and I like had this education of all the materials, and I started using all the materials, and that was like better, I think, than going to art school, because I also met other artists that I admired and were inspired by, and then I like would work for them and stuff, and then I started building up a portfolio. And instead of showing like other artists my portfolio, because everybody's got an opinion, like I can show you work right now that you may or may not like, but you're not paying me, So I started taking the stuff to art directors that would. And my first professional assignment was in 1994 when the O.J. Simpson trial was. They were going to announce the verdict. So the local paper in Philadelphia, the Weekly, which is like the L.A. Weekly, they called me up the night before. They go to press on like Tuesday night, so they called me that Monday and said, "Hey, we need a picture of O.J. Can you do it for us?"
Wow.
So I was like, "Yeah, I know I want to do." So I stayed up all night and I did this picture, and it was O.J. Simpson, his profile. Half of it was black and half of it was white, because no one knew.
Yeah.
It just came to my mind, and I did it, and a lot of people wrote in and they said that they actually liked it. So they had another one for me the following week, which was actually Joe Paterno. Like I remember the from Penn State, the guy who was the coach that was sort of who knew that all that like child molestation stuff was going on. So I done a portrait of him, and then I did
upstanding citizens. A lot of upstanding citizens. You were doing illustrations of.
The creme de la creme, and then I just started doing it every week. And they would hire me, and I was doing it weekly.
What was that like? I bet you felt like so just like validated, like, yes, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Well, I mean, I think they only paid like $35 a drawing. I was still working full time, but every Wednesday morning on my way to work at the art supply store, like I would, they have those, the containers that hold the papers all around the city, and I'd go over and pop it open and see my work in print. It was cool.
Yeah, that's
It was
be
very
really cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
And that was 1994.
94, yeah. So here we are in
how'd you get to LA?
2015.
Yeah.
In 2008, illustration business was going slow. I had another business that was going on, and just everything kind of came to a halt. And I was involved in a bad relationship. My mother had gotten cancer. Like, it was just one thing after another, and I was miserable. And I remember going to therapy. I went to therapy for years, twice a week.
I highly recommend it.
I love that. I recommend it to everybody. I love therapy. But I found that it works if you're not high, and it works if you're honest. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, those are two really important ingredients to therapy. Yeah, if clients come into my office loaded, I'm like, out. I come back when you're sober.
And I was sent to therapy at a real early age.
You were?
Yeah, and I would go in.
What was the reason for that?
I would just never felt part of. I just was always like frightened. I always hung out, like, my crew was like this one kid who had Tourette syndrome, who the school thought I was a good kid, so I have to leave class with him early. I had my other friend, he had a spinal injury, and he kind of had this walk, and like I've always been attracted to like, like just the good looking crowd was never my thing, and I sort of became friendly, I guess, with everybody, but that was more of like my crew, but there was just something always there, and there was something wrong with me. I had a car accident when I was 16. I was super depressed, and then, you know, they just sent me to therapy. But I would go to therapy high and tell the therapist about everybody who's doing drugs around me, you know, and you know, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me.
Projection.
Yeah, I don't know. So, but then, you know, years later, you know, because I had some issues, you know, my father passed away when I was young, and, you know, a lot of relationship issues and stuff. I went to therapy, and, you know, I went, you know, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times a week, sometimes 3 times in a day. No, not that much, but I went for like between 7 and 9 years, and
That's
I mean,
great.
I'm not trying to. I don't even know how we got on this topic, but because I'm not trying to push you as a therapist or anything like that. But I highly recommend it to people, because I think, if anything, there was nothing better than going and just having somebody listen for like 45 minutes. You know, talk about me. Like, it was great.
Yeah.
You know, but I got through, and I didn't realize, because I had this conversation actually with my girlfriend the other day, like, you know, you start out, you go and you talk, and you don't know where it's going. But you don't, and I said, well, that's like little landmines that the therapist leave for you, because it comes back up, you know, and it helps, but you got to stick with it, you know. And
so wait, you're saying you go into the session and you don't really know what you're talking about, and you just start talking about stuff, but the therapist is paying attention.
Therapist is paying attention, and they're asking you a couple questions here
Yeah.
and there, and you leave, and you're like, you know, like, what, are you allowed to curse?
Of course.
You're like, what the fuck did I just spend my money and time talking to this idiot about, who just asked me this stupid shit?
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not going back. Fuck that. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
And then you get into some pain during the week, so you go back and you talk about some more stuff. And then, like, a year later, well, do you remember we had this issue? And
Yes.
then, well, this is what you need. And then you realize that what the work that you're doing in the long run, you know, it kind of goes around and it comes back to help you. You know, but, you know, because, you know, that's where I see, like, for me, like, if you give up too easily, you know, and that's like with therapy, like, you can't go, you know, and just expect instant results. Like, and that was my whole life. It still is. Like, I like quantity over quality. I mean, that's my thing. More, you know. Yeah. But the, you know, the reality of it is like, you know, you got to go from A to Z. You got to do all the letters. You know, and that's how
there's no shortcut.
Yeah, there's no overnight successes. You know, when you talk about with the art and stuff, I mean, it's few and far between. It happens, but, you know, like, it takes a long time to be, you know, to do anything. It takes hard work. Something I don't want to do.
I know.
You know?
I know. I feel you. I think what you say about therapy is so true. Like, there's different styles of therapy, and there's, you know, due to what's going on with insurance, they're trying to be more solution focused and evidence-based practices. But in my own experience as a client, and then sitting on the other end, it's like this unfolding of a person, this unpacking, and it's also like, it's a relationship. And, you know, as a therapist, it's like, you are trained to see certain things, and as you're witnessing somebody else, right, you can see them usually way more clearly than they can see themselves, especially if they're got a lot of, like, anxiety or depression or denial, either just have a lot of stuff going on. But it's like, it's true. I notice with people, it's like, and as I get to know them better, it's like I start to become an expert. Like, I feel like as a therapist, my job is to become an expert in you. Like, 45 minutes a week, like, I just want to know, how do you think? What are you doing in your life? Like, well, what are the behaviors? What are the feelings, right? We start to unpack that, and then I can help, right? Point out the patterns, and then give interventions to, if we want to make a change. But it's a long, long process. And it's interesting because it's like you're just saying, right? Anything worthwhile takes, like, it's going to take
takes a long time. And I can imagine, I mean, I don't know the clients that you have, but, like, for the time that we're in right now, 2015, we all have these smartphones, these intimacy blockers.
Yes.
And the more we're on them, the more disconnected we become. Like, and I'm not, like, I'm just as guilty. I'm on that fucking thing every day, you know, but, like, it puts up such a shield, because, like, I can't go in a store and talk to, I mean, like, you know, they call them millennials, like, people cannot communicate anymore. And they'd rather, like, just, like, I'm surprised you don't just text the whole therapy session.
Back and forth.
Yeah, because you meet people face to face. They can't look you in the eye. You can't have a conversation. And it's really, it's, you know, and this addiction to information, You know, like when something goes down in the news, it gets so twisted, and people need to know, and they need to know right now.
And then what's the next scoop on it? And then also, I love too, people will be like, what's this channel saying versus this channel? And then it becomes about the content and how it's being given in two different arenas, and then it's like really? Wow.
But it also so quickly, you know, because I don't like to look at myself, and I don't like to deal with myself, or reality, we'll say. I don't like reality. It's way too fucking much for me. Get up in the morning, shave, put my pants on. Too much, right? So you get this phone or this computer, and you get all this information. I don't have to deal with it. I could just get sucked into that.
You do.
And I'm somewhere else. So I'm working on like an hour a day. Like, you know, I'm just trying to, like, it's so hard, like, because, like, you know, I want the assignments. I want to make, if somebody emails me, I want to get back to them right away.
Right.
But, you know, it's like the people that I've found out that are most successful, they don't stand by their phones or computers. Like, they check it maybe once or twice a day, and they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, but I'm addicted to it now. And it's so tough. You take that phone away from me, I'm like, you know, it's tough. So
there's a lot in there. I don't even know what to jump on that train.
Right.
The phone is a crazy thing. I guess one of the things that's my favorite thing is, I mean, for me, it's like a spiritual experience lies in the connection between two people. So I really,
sure.
I feel like, you know, I don't know, conversations are sacred, and you know, I'm lucky to be a therapist and do what I love, and so I get to witness people's stories, and it's kind of why I decided to do this whole podcast, vlogcast. I don't even know what it's called yet.
Right.
Because it's like, I want more people to be able to witness other people's stories, because it's like, right, we see ourselves in other people's stories, and it's inspiring.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Will you tell me about your spirituality?
My spirituality. Well, I don't like to be walked on like a carpet. I try to stick up for myself. I try to help people. I try to be of maximum service in all areas, not anything in particular. Like, if I can help, I can help. I have a couple spiritual guidelines that I go by when it comes to my creativity.
Ooh, tell me.
Well, a lot of it actually comes from, you know, if you've ever heard the book The Artist's Way.
I have.
With Julia Cameron. And,
yes.
you know, from years and years ago, like when it first came out, I was really into that book because I sort of felt not like blocked, but I didn't know what to do. You know, like how do you get up and do this every day? You know, and all that. And she has a couple principles, and a lot of them, like, I actually have them taped up over there. But, you know, it's like, you know, when it comes to, you know, like self-will, you know, self-will is me not getting to this table every day. And when I don't draw, I go down, you know. There's I go into an LGD, which is a low grade depression, which can keep going to a triple D, a deep dark depression.
I love that you have these terms for this. I'm still in those.
Well, I gotta kind of know like where I'm at on the spiritual axiom. So you know, it's like, you know, one of the things is like God, or my higher power, created me, and in order for me to give back to the universe, I have to create. So it's this continuous flow. I believe in that. I believe for me to not draw is blocking that. And, you know, so there's those principles that I follow, and there's just like, you know, trying to do the right thing, being nice to people.
Okay, you just nailed it. All right, so what you just said, and I just like want to like eat this moment, is I feel like I'm like gonna get teary. So the intersection between spirituality, creativity, and purpose is you. It's you. Like, you are the intersection, which is why this is called You Are Complete, because you are the intersection, and each one of us is the intersection, and you just so beautifully, like, just said that, like, explained the whole thing, where it's like your purpose is to create, because you, right, it flows through you from God, your higher power, and so for you to not draw and paint and do all the stuff you do, it's like
I'm not being of service, and I'm blocking. Not being of service to myself, because I'm miserable when I don't do it.
Right.
And I'm not being of service to my higher power that created me, because I'm supposed to give it back, just like with everything.
Yeah.
So.
How did you figure that out?
Well, I did. Like I told you, I read that book,
Okay.
and that's the principles. But by applying that, that's the thing. And you could talk about it in therapy. You could talk about it in 12-step books. You could talk about it anywhere. I mean, I have so many. When I first met my girlfriend, and she asked me, like on our first date, like, do you read? I said, well, I read a lot of self-help books. And it doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you read. It's what do you take out of that and put it into action. So I've learned by trial and error that if I stop drawing, I'm fucking miserable. I'm miserable. But I have to draw it, and by hearing it placed like that, that I have to give it back because I was a creator. I like that cycle. That resonates with me. So, and I feel like I'm contributing, to the universe.
You are.
So.
You are. How do you, on a daily basis, like, because I hear what you're saying, like, some days, like, you just don't want to get up and do it. What do you do to get yourself to the table?
Well, right above me, I have a quote, because I love quotes, and this is from Chuck Close, who was an artist, fine artist, a rather inspiring and great one. And he says, the advice I like to give young artists, or really anybody who listens to me, is not to wait around for inspiration. Inspiration's for amateurs. The rest of us show up and get to work. So...
Wow, I love that.
And then, he goes on, the best ideas come out of the process. They come out of the work itself. And then he goes down to say, if you just get to work, something will occur to you. And that's just like with reading the books. You can read the books and we can have a conversation about it, but if I'm not applying it, and that's where I came up with, like about 2.5 years ago, I was like, I had moved, he asked me how I got to LA. Yeah. So I had a really bad time in 2008, and I was miserable, and my friend said, I would talk to my therapist about it. I said, I think I should go to LA. I don't know why, because it was like Hollywood, I just wanted to get out. I was in Philadelphia, and I couldn't eat another cheesesteak, So my friends put some money together, and they said, why don't you go out there and visit, because you're miserable. We don't like you when you're miserable. So a friend of mine...
They funded your trip?
Yeah. They funded my trip.
It must have been a real pain in the ass to be around for people to be that desperate to get rid of you.
Horrible. I was like the poster child for doom and gloom.
Oh, Joey.
So I came out here. I had a friend of mine got in touch with me on Facebook who I hadn't seen in years, and she was an actress out here. And she said, I'll be in town. So we talked, and she said, you could stay at my place. So they paid for the thing, and I came out here, and I fell in love with Los Angeles. So I went home, and I sold everything I had, and as you could see around the studio, I collect a lot of toys and stuff, So I sold everything, and I came up, because I had lost everything in 2008, and I came up with $4,000, and I moved out here. I did not know what was going to happen. I knew 3 people. One of them died in the first couple months that I was here. And I came here, and I got a crazy roommate, and then I wound up getting my own apartment, and I started doing every odd job imaginable, through Craigslist. I was changing bank signs. I was doing all this stuff, but I was getting to know LA, and I would draw here and there because it was still there, but I was just kind of having fun seeing what was going on here. So then I meet my current girlfriend, and a few years ago she said, you're miserable when you don't draw. Why don't you, she gave me some money. She said, why don't you go to the art store and buy a stack of paper? So the paper that I work on, I found this a really good deal. Right. I bought a big stack of paper, and I said, every day I'm going to do a drawing. So I started drawing every day, and I started posting it, on Instagram. And
I didn't realize this was so recent.
Yeah, there was a slump.
Right.
Because I was moved out here, and I just wanted to survive.
Well, you had to make money to.
And you got to make connections, and you got to do stuff. It might be actually 3 years, but so anyway, so I bought the stack of paper and I started drawing every day, and it just the dam broke, and I was posting, and people were like, "Oh, do you want to sell that? What's this going on? What's that going on?" And right before that, though, what had happened was it was a Monday night. I got a call from a guy, and he said, "Hey, we're looking at your portfolio. Can you do a sketch for us real quick?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. What do you need?" And he sent me over something. I sent it back. And this was at 9:00 at night on a Monday. So I'm waiting around. He calls me back like in a half hour, and he said, "Hey, we just showed the director this drawing. Do you think you can do like 75 of these in the next 3 days?"
You're like, I've been doing one every day. Yeah.
Well, no, this was before that.
Okay.
I had to go. This was a big important part of the story. So I was like, fire up the coffee, let's do it. And I was working. I was learning how to do art on a computer digitally.
Okay.
So I had this big giant tablet. It was like a giant iPad. It was called a Cintiq. And I did all these drawings, and I didn't really know what it was for because I had to sign like a non-disclosure agreement and all. And then I didn't really I didn't mind doing that work, but it was like non-credited and it really wasn't my style. But it was like, hey, here's a break.
Yeah.
So then I start drawing the monsters and I start doing all of that stuff, and that starts going well. And I find out like the assignment that the guy called me like a year later. I went to the theater, and I got to watch my art was up on the big screen, and it was used in the opening title sequences for that movie Argo.
No way.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah. So that was like that had got me pretty pumped up.
Yeah.
But that sort of like, but you know, it's typical with me. You give me the opportunity, and then I don't like it because it wasn't the thing, you know. And then they gave me some more work. The company, they were nice to me, but it wasn't my thing. So I started going my own way and drawing these things. And it just, what had happened was, I love the early morning. I love the hours like 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. There's no phone. Nobody can get me, you know? So I would start getting up really early, having coffee. I do some writing, some personal writing. And then I get right at the drawing and I work until I'm tired, you know, maybe 11, 12 o'clock. Because it's really important for me to get that creative energy out first. But the problem with 2015 is all this electronic stuff and waking up and seeing the phone. All of a sudden, other people's problems become your problems, you know, especially if it's a deadline or something like that. So it's still tough, but I try to stick to that habit. I get up and I draw every day, and I try to do at least, you know, 4 to 8 hours of just art, and then I handle all the business stuff. So.
It's been said many times that the morning is the most spiritual time of the day. It's when you're most open and receptive.
I think so. And I'm like, when I get out of bed, I'm just like a bolt of energy, you know. And, you know, like 12, 1 o'clock, especially out here in LA, it's nice. I want to kind of chill, you know. If I got some stuff to do on the computer or take a walk, like that's what I like to do. But in the morning, like that's my favorite.
All right, so what's your plan for what's your social media plan in the sense of, like, do you not look at your phone until a certain time, or did you put anything in place yet?
No, I've tried. I've actually even put this thing on my computer. So I have to go on the computer for reference a lot. Like I need to get pictures of people and stuff, and I had this thing on there that I couldn't get on the internet.
Okay.
But I can't do that because it's
you
like
need to look up.
I got to go on like Google, you know, and stuff like that. So the phone, though, I've actually tried to turn it off or put it in airplane mode, but it just doesn't work because, you know, the other thing is like this friggin' validation thing. And this was always an issue with me. I just want to be liked. I want, you know, like my first drug that I ever took was your approval. You know, so it's still to this day. When you put on Instagram, how many likes am I getting? And all those likes don't mean anything.
No, they really don't.
They don't mean anything.
Yeah.
You know, the things that mean anything, like with Instagram is people going to my website, supporting me by either sharing that they like my work, you know, or buying something. You know, which is the highest honor and privilege.
Yeah.
You know, but what a lot of people don't realize, like about artists, like on Facebook and stuff, is if they really want to support the person, the like is fine, but the share is
reaches more people.
Could reach way more people. Yeah.
And then obviously people wanting to have your creation in their home. The piece we have in our house, I did a Periscope the other day, and I used it as my background.
Oh, cool.
I just love that.
That's
piece.
One of the only pieces that I've ever done on canvas, because I work on paper. I mean, there's all those flat files are filled up with work right over there. So I don't, you know, that was like on canvas. There was only like a couple. I was experimenting around to see,
right?
You know, if I liked it, and you know, so it you know, it was. I don't want to say an experiment, but it was. So it's cool.
But it sounds to me like they're all experiments.
Sure. Yeah.
In a way, right? You're saying like the line happens, and you go in, and you don't really know what's gonna occur.
I think experiment. There's experiments in my sketchbook for a certain technique, but then there's I don't want to say like enlightenment. There's with every piece that I do, I try to learn something new. But if there's like a deadline or something, I can't afford to experiment. But I don't want to do, like, if I stick to the same formula, it's going to get stale for me. And, like I may start out, a drawing of you different. Well, I know I would start a drawing of you differently than I would start, one of my cat.
So there's intention.
Right, and there's two different personalities. Like, he's a terror. I don't live with you. I don't know you. I was just going to say, you're not. But I know you're nice. From hell, I know you're nice. You laugh. So it would be different. I would handle it different. So that's when it comes to like, again, I don't want to use the word experiment, but it's more like I don't want to get stale. Try, approach it differently from different angles is what I like. So.
Do you commission for self-portraits? Or portraits, I mean? Because it wouldn't be you. It would be you drawing yourself.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's easy. No, I have. And recently, in this holiday season, a couple people have hired me.
I think that's just would be the most fabulous gift. And now I'm already like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
My birthday's coming February. David knows. That's what I want.
Yeah, I've done a couple of them, and people have dug them. Yeah.
I want me through the eyes of Joey Feldman. Nice. That's what I want to see.
All right.
That's what I want to see.
You know the contact info?
I sure do, and I know the. I don't know the secret location. I forgot I was blindfolded to get here. Is there anything else you want the world to know today?
That's like a lot of questions.
Is there any last words?
Lately, this week has been a little bit rough. It's just the, I don't know, the whole, there's nothing I want anybody to know just don't give up. Don't give up. That's it.
I love that. And that quote is really like resonating with me. It's just, you don't have to be inspired to do the work. You just do the work and the inspiration will keep
come.
Coming.
Yeah.
I just love that.
Yeah.
I just love that. All right. I got to pick out my 3 questions.
Okay.
My 3 ending questions.
We're not done. Okay.
We're not done. All right, you guys. As you know, I am trying to come up with 3 questions that I ask at the end of every podcast. So if you want to give me some ideas, you are welcome to email me at bianca@youarecomplete.com and send me a note of what do you think would be like the 3 best questions I could ask. But now I'm going to wing it. My first question is, what did you eat for breakfast this morning?
I actually made bulletproof coffee.
Nice.
Do you know what that is?
I've heard. It's like has all this greenery or healthy stuff in it?
Yeah, it's coffee with grass-fed butter and MCT oil. And it fills you up a little bit. And I didn't eat today. I actually ate right before you came over, so that would be my first meal, but it was actually like lunch. So, but I can tell you what it was. It was eggs with onions and peppers.
Sounds great.
But I've been lately doing like chorizo with a couple eggs and onions. I love that.
Ooh, that sounds good. So, I do. I love eggs. I eat eggs probably I think every day.
Yeah, eggs are good.
I was going to ask you what your favorite time of day is, but I feel like I know. It's between 4 and 8 a.m.
Yes.
Favorite holiday tradition?
Favorite holiday?
Any holiday. It doesn't have to be Christmas. It could be
Halloween,
any holiday.
Man. Come on.
Of course it is. Do you dress up?
I used to a lot. Yeah. Lately, though, I haven't. But we keep saying we're going to get dressed up. But yeah, that's the best holiday. Yeah. People would come to my studio and I would make them up. My friends would all have me do their makeup and stuff. I love that stuff, But that's the best holiday.
Halloween.
Yeah.
All right. And what are your cats' names?
Boy and Mooney. And Mooney she's a little girl cat that used to be named Rocky because of Philadelphia, because my girlfriend is also from Philly, Jersey. And she would call her Rocky. But in Yiddish, which is a language that I learned growing up, there's a term called Rachmaninouskeit, which is kind of like a sad face, or a punam, which is face like. So she's always got this like little sad face.
Okay.
So Rocky became Rachmanis, and Rachmanis became Money. So that's what we call her. She's adorable.
Money and Boy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Boy's the terror, but that's my guy.
All right, I've got Joey Feldman and his cats here in his studio in LA at an undisclosed location. And if you want to see more of Joey, you can find him where?
www.joeyfeldman.com.
Nice.
And Instagram, joeyfeldman_artist.
Fabulous. And Periscope too.
Periscope, but that would be my Twitter name, @JoeyFeldman.
@JoeyFeldman.
Yeah.
All right, guys. This guy is wonderful. His artwork is magnificent. It is such an honor to chat with you and be with you today and hear about your journey. And if you want to find more of me, I'm at You Are Complete, YOUARE Complete, Twitter, Periscope, Instagram, and my website, www.youarecomplete.com. You can sign up there and subscribe to my email list. Therefore, you will not miss any more exciting podcasts, vlogcasts, trainings, teachings, and any other exciting stuff going on. Thanks so much for joining us today. You are complete, you are whole, and you are miraculous. Have a beautiful day.